If you are not a practitioner of any religion currently because you got out of it or you had a spiritual awakening and you chose to just leave it all together, it is extremely important that you create your own spiritual system. Welcome to the Venusian Academy. My name is Silvana, and today I'm going to explore why it's so important now more than ever to create your own spiritual system if you are not currently practicing under any umbrella, under any religion or a spiritual system that has the structure, and practices and different things to lead you into deeper connection with yourself and with spirit. So I think it's pretty obvious by now that the world is pretty chaotic. It has always been chaotic, but I think right now it feels like things are on steroids. Like the volume on the chaos has turned up. This has a lot to do astrologically with, the movement of Pluto and just the age in which we're entering, and also the massive spiritual awakening that we're all going through right now. This is so obvious and apparent whenever you talk to a kid. Like the new children, like you talk to a 4, 5, 6, up to like 8 years old. These kids, they are different. They have a different level of awareness and consciousness. So for me, that's always the symptom of like, what is the energy that's arriving into the planet? What is the frequency and the vibration that these souls have? Because these kids, they don't have a lot of like that energetic conditioning that comes from, ourselves and then our parents and great parents. It's almost as if they're a little bit immune to it. And sure, over time that can, they can get programmed and conditioned, but a lot of them are, very sure about the nature of their soul. Because we are going through this transformation, we know we're heading for chaos. Like this is, it's gonna happen. And I think that things might get worse before they get better, because that's just the cycle of life. It's a spiral. And, sometimes it's like whenever you're sick and you have the fever and you're delirious and you're sweating and you feel the worst, that's right before you start feeling better. It's like almost like all that heat and all that fever is killing off whatever's attacking your system. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling so much better after you get out of that season. So I think like the same is going to happen planetarily, where, collectively we're going to notice that things are going to get more aggravated before they get better. So with all of that chaos, we know that it's extremely important to stay spiritually grounded. Why? Because if you're not spiritually grounded, then the news, what's going on in the world, people's emotional reactions, all of that is just gonna throw you left and right, left and right. You're gonna notice a lot more crisis, mental health crisis, because people that have this chronic disconnection from their spiritual selves and from their souls, and they have been really connected just to Maya, the illusion, the matrix, and they're just observing that and seeing that as like reality. The moment that starts doing this and getting out of control is going to affect them psychologically. So we as spiritual seekers, we need to remain very grounded in our own spirituality, in our souls. And I believe that spiritual strength is one of the most important pillars. It has always been, but especially now. In the future, people who are spiritually strong, they're going to have the resilience to really handle and navigate the changes that are going to happen in our society. So this isn't just like choosing one day and then becoming it. This is a practice. It's an exercise. It's like going to the gym. You need to, continually strengthen that part of yourself. And in order for us to do that, we need to commit to a path. Why? Because a spiritual maturation requires that you commit to a path and you explore yourself inside of that path. What's the problem? The problem is that if we look at all of the paths that exist, that are given to us by previous religions or by society, a lot of us, we don't resonate with that. It's like, I couldn't, like obviously, the Abrahamic religions, they didn't work out for me anymore. And whenever I explored the Eastern religions, I still felt some of that rigidity and dogma that I didn't like. And then you get left with New Age spirituality, but that felt too ungrounded and chaotic. And you're like, how do I even, right? I'm just spiritual and there's this thing, but there's no order. And there is a reason There is a reason why religion exists in humanity, in our species. There is a reason why, there are these systems designed. Now, the fact that maybe those systems were used to control a population, yes, that's another conversation. But we need that order, we need structure in order to explore. Just like a child, to explore needs to know where the boundary is, because if not, there's this sense of like, I don't know. And we see it with babies. See, whenever a baby is too loose, it feels unsafe and it's just like jittery. And in order to soothe a baby, sometimes what you need is to like wrap them up. And this sensation of like being contained, it brings safety. And I like to really observe babies and use this analogy because it's like looking at the rawest, most innocent, untouched expression of the human. So this gives us a lot of information. We need a certain, point of containment in order to feel safe and explore. And whenever we're talking about spirituality, we're already dealing with a lot of fear, shame, and guilt that was placed through religion. And just to get out of religion is already a very scary thing, because all your life you heard you don't ever do that. So if you're already out of that, then you're like, okay, what's next? What do I do? It's all free. It might feel too loose for the mind, and you might not grow in the same way that you would if there was some form of containment in your own spiritual journey and practice, and in the way that you explore your soul and get to know yourself. So when there is no path that exists because you've explored and you tried and it just doesn't resonate with you, the only option is to create your own path. And this is like, people did it in the past. Like, look at all of the branches of Christianity that exist, and look at all the different branches. Like, people have been doing this. So why not take ownership and responsibility for the well-being of our souls, our spirits, and our mental well-being, and design a path that works exclusively for us? This isn't make a religion so you can have followers in your religion, although that might happen, who knows? But this is more like build a spiritual path that works for you, that helps you feel contained and safe, and create some structure so you can begin organizing your life into different categories. Because if your life is organized mentally, you're like, okay, I'm perceiving this energy, you will be able to recognize when you are in the phase of the complete unknown. Until you have that structure, most things are going to feel unknown, and kind of you're just gonna bucket everything into one area. I want to give you guys an example with people who are psychic. Whenever people who are psychic don't create a system to read the energies, that can get dangerous. They say whatever comes, like they're unable to create a difference between the stories of their own mind versus accurate energetic readings that they're perceiving. And some of the best psychics I know, they have their process of grounding, removing, and then they begin they have a system. I work with one psychic that I love so much, Dr. Cielo. And Dr. Cielo uses flowers and colors and like roses in his readings. And Dr. Cielo has his own spiritual system that allows him to channel properly. And every time I've had appointments with Dr. Cielo, and there's, we're going through the channeling sessions, it has always been so absolutely accurate that I only need like a reading every 2 years. That is the impact and the power of being able to have a structure, right? Whenever we don't have that structure, that's whenever you have psychics that are like, this person's gonna get sick. And what they're doing is just cursing people here and there because they're unable to separate their own emotional reactions, ego, and then thought system and programs from accurate information. In the same way, if we don't have a religion of our own that we've created with that structure, we can get lost in the sea of emotionality and, in just like the absolute vastness of spirituality. We have to understand that our brains have limitations. The universe is everything. It's just like, our minds can never comprehend the nature of divinity, of God, of source. But we try. And how do we try? Well, we try by creating a little bit of order with what we're giving. So this is, the importance of creating your own path. Also, if you're going to do this, I've talked in previous videos, like you cannot be somebody who hasn't alchemized fear or doesn't know how to like move through the energy of fear, because it's too scary. Better for you to stay in something that already exists and just go deep into that path. But commitment, the key word here is commitment. If we commit to the path and we just stay present with it and we continue to organize it over our life, this system is going to expand and give us so much wisdom, not only about ourselves, but about life, about divinity, about source. It allows us to connect directly, but not in just like this blob way, as if we were, doing it tens of thousands of years ago in humanity, but in a way that we're like, okay, we have evolved so much mentally and physiologically, and then now we're evolving spiritually. And instead of having this constant like groupings of spiritual practices and beliefs, is like, I'm going to begin to know my own. This isn't for everybody, like I said. Like I think there's a pattern in the people that get attracted to my work, and it's this sense of rebelliousness, just like discomfort that they feel with, like a dissatisfaction. That's the word, not discomfort, but dissatisfaction with what already exists, and hunger for more depth. I need to know like this in a deeper level, but I've hit this wall whenever they told me like, if I don't wake up, before sunrise, there I am not doing blah, blah, blah. Like once we hit those walls, that is like, I just can't buy it. I cannot buy it. And I cannot blindly devote myself to something that, my mind, spirit, soul doesn't feel in full alignment to, a full hell yes in my body. Then this is the way for us. This is the way for the rebel souls that are like, I don't like what exists, so I'm gonna make my own thing. And you do have to take responsibility for yourself and create your own value system. A lot of the values that we hold, they were inherited from our family, from society, from whoever. And sometimes these values don't really apply to us. Like there are certain values that I'm like, why is this a value if this isn't something that's even in my reality? Like I don't deal with this stuff. The values should align with your life, with the modern life that we have. We have very different lives now than we did 500, 600 years ago, even 100 years ago, 50, 10, pre-COVID. Like things have changed so much that it is a call to create a value system that aligns to the flavor of our soul, instead of trying to fit in these boxes that the world gives you. It's like, oh, I give you so many choices. You can choose yellow, you can choose blue, or you can choose red. Which one do you want? And your soul is like, I'm a bright hot pink. Like, what are you talking about? Maybe red. Red is the one that's like most similar to it, but still not me. I need a little bit of blue. See? So it's like, you don't have to compromise. You don't have to try to change and adapt and like mold yourself into something that you're not. And that's where the responsibility piece comes in. Can you take radical responsibility for yourself? And can you choose a path that allows all parts of you to come on board? Because that's the whole point of creating your own spiritual system, your own religion, is that all parts of you, they're like, all right, let's go. Here's this awkward emo part of me from like age 13 that's like, I'm too cool for all of you. That part also writes into my vote. There's no fragmentation. I see this a lot with, new age spiritual teachers. All this fragmentation and hypocrisy. And they're on camera saying one thing and acting a certain way. And then in person, they're like fucking yelling at their dog and like choking it down. And that division, like that, fragmentation, that's like, that's trauma. And this is, at least inside the Venusian Academy, we practice Venusian Tantra. Tantra is a path of unification of the soul with all parts of myself, because as within, so without. So it's like the more unified I am within with all of the parts of me, the more unification I'm going to encounter in my external life. One last thing I want to mention about this is, if you need to receive external acceptance or celebration or approval from anybody outside of you in your life that you are doing the right thing, then this is not for you. Don't do this. Go into something that already exists. Why? Because you are not going to be celebrated or accepted, or like, people are like, what are you doing? It's actually, nobody really needs to know what you're doing, because this is your relationship with divinity. It's your spiritual life. This is, in astrology, it's like an 8th house matter, 8th house, 12th house, the secret houses. This is deeply intimate. This is your relationship with your soul and divinity. So there is no external recognition if you're creating yourself. You have to give yourself that celebration, the recognition, and the approval to go for it, to do this, to actually dare to be different. And what happens is, like, at the beginning, it's all good because you're just gathering things together. But as you begin following your own spiritual path, things will get very volatile. It's like life starts giving you really intense lessons. That's why I say this is a path for those that have already learned to alchemize fear, and people who are ready to take radical responsibility for their mental, spiritual, and emotional state. Radical responsibility. I am responsible for all parts of me. I'm not going to blame Silvana on YouTube if I cannot handle this. This is you. I'm just sharing information here, and then you do you. And if you do you, then you're going to see a volatile, response as you learn to be like, oh my God, life is starting to like show me all these things to deepen me into this thing that I'm creating to help me organize. And then over time, it's like the volatility starts reducing, and then all of a sudden, there's a wave in which things are starting to like come together and flow together. This is an experiential path. So all of this to say, if you create your own spiritual system, you are creating a foundation based on spirituality, on values, that no matter what happens in the world, you won't be shaken. You won't go down with it. You'll be able to maintain your truth and a connection, deep connection with your heart. And that's the best that we can hope for in our lives. No matter what happens, to stay true to ourselves and to stay connected to our hearts. All right, guys, this is all for today. Please make sure to check out the description box below for resources on how to join the Venusian Academy and different events that I may have going. And make sure to subscribe and interact with the algorithm so more people like us, the rebels out there, can find this type of work. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.